What would you say to the Chief Justice about the connection between legitimacy of the court and conflict of interest?
That the court's legitimacy is derived from the belief of the people of the United States that this court will make decisions based on the rule of law and not on personal entanglements. That's why we have judicial ethics. And that's why it is that conflicts of interest and even the appearance of impropriety causes a judge to recuse himself or herself from any decision. Look, I want to pass the judicial ethics law, but to do that, we've got an election coming up. And that means we've got to have a majority in the House. We've got to have a majority big enough in the Senate to roll back the filibuster, to make the changes we need to make. So every time you feel frustrated about what's happening in the Supreme Court, every time you want to shake your fist, every time over the next 34 days that you want to throw things at the television or tear up whatever your news feed is, stop and say, what can I do to influence the outcome of the election in November? Because what happens in that election in November is going to profoundly affect not just what happens in the Supreme Court, but how much power the Supreme Court has to determine our lives in so many other ways.
And you need more Democratic senators than just the 50 you have in the Supreme Court now. Yes. You're going to be followed on this program by Tim Ryan, who in the latest poll is running 3 points ahead of his Republican opponent, J.D. Vance, in Ohio.
Go get him, Tim.
In Ohio. In Georgia tonight, we have a Senate race that has been hit with something we've never seen before. And I wasn't planning to ask you about this, but it's been breaking news of the night that the Republican candidate Herschel Walker has been denying that he knows who the woman is who emerged this week saying that he paid for her abortion. She has revealed tonight that she is actually the mother of one of his children. And Herschel Walker has not yet responded to that. But what we're seeing here is a Republican candidate who is involved in a story like this, while at the very same time saying that all abortions in Georgia and America, all of them should be banned.
Mm-hmm. So think of it this way again. This is about who the two candidates are in Georgia. This is about what the two parties are right now all across this country. Republicans have made clear that if they can get enough power, they will ban abortions all across this country. Democrats have made clear that government should not be making these decisions, and that if we can get 2 more senators in the United States Senate and hold on to the House, we can make Roe versus Wade the law of the land. It's really that simple. If you think the government ought to be making the decisions, then the Republicans, they're offering that option. But if you actually think that this ought to be a decision made by a woman and her doctor and no one else, that the woman should have the right to decide who she wants in that room with her to make that decision, then that means you got to be out there fighting hard to get the Democrats elected.
What would you say to people who, as John Roberts is acknowledging there, have questioned the legitimacy of the Supreme Court because they reversed this 50-year right that women in this country have?
Yeah, well, you know, the Supreme Court has done this to itself. These justices are not mainstream. Remember how this happened. One by one, as the Republicans put them forward, with that wink, wink, nod, nod. We know what they're going to do. On Roe, we know what they're going to do for corporate America. We know what they're going to do to try to destroy unions. We know what they're going to do on voting rights. But no, each of those nominees stood up and said, yep, what is settled law is settled law, and we will not disturb settled law. And remember, most of them said right off the top, Roe versus Wade settled law. And as soon as they had the votes, they flipped around on that. And they said to every person in this country, those constitutional rights that you have depended on, whether it's about abortion, whether it's about voting rights, whether it's about equal marriage, you better not count on them anymore, because this extremist Supreme Court says their opinion is what matters, and they can make the decisions for the rest of the nation. And this is why I say, but that's what this election in 34 days is all about. And this is why we want to help in Georgia. We want to help in Ohio. We also want to help in Pennsylvania, johnfetterman.com. We want to help in Wisconsin, mandelabarnes.com. When people feel frustrated, then go to John Fetterman, go to Mandela Barnes, send them $25, offer to volunteer an hour to help out and make phone calls. You know, I feel hopeful in this moment because we can still affect the outcome. Hopeful, but urgent about how much we've got to do in the next 34 days. We have an opportunity, if we can get 2 more Democratic senators, hang on to what we've got and get 2 more and hold on to the House, we can roll back the filibuster. We can make Roe the law of the land. We can protect voting rights all across this country. We can protect union rights across this country. We can turn back a Supreme Court that is determined to impose its extremist views on the rest of us. We can do it, but only if we get engaged in these races that are coming up in November, only if we put ourselves on the line for John Fetterman, put ourselves on the line for Mandela Barnes, put ourselves on the line for Tim Ryan and for Raphael Warnock and for Maggie Hassan. We've really got to be in these fights.